Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our latest interview in the Women in STEM Speaker Series. Every Wednesday, now through September 30th, we'll introduce you to some inspiring females who are doing incredible work in different STEM fields. This series is supported by the Association of Science and Technology Centers, and If Then through a gender equity grant, which supports projects aimed at increasing the representation of women and gender minorities in STEM. My name is Nicole Chenoweth. I work in the marketing department at Carnegie Science Center. And today I am thrilled to be talking with Ellen Bachman, an inside sales engineer at Eaton. Welcome, Ellen. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you for having me.
So I have a few questions prepared to get our conversation started, but I do want to let the folks know that are watching at home. Feel free to comment with your own questions for Ellen. We will get to them later on in the Facebook Live. So let's dive right in. Tell me a little bit about your background, Ellen.
Okay, well, so I'm originally from Pittsburgh. I've lived here my entire life. I went to North Hills High School in the North Hills, north of the city. From a young age, I always had an interest in math and science. Many people suggested I go into engineering when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, those younger ages. But when you're in middle school, it's not really the coolest thing to do, to listen to what everyone tells you to do. I had to learn for myself. So I went to Pitt after I finished at North Hills, and I went in as an undeclared major, maybe thinking I was going to study math. But a few months in, I was looking over the shoulder of a friend who was studying engineering, saying, "Hey, what are you doing? That looks more fun than what I'm doing." So after thinking about it for a while, I transferred into engineering while I was at Pitt. I decided to focus on electrical engineering, and everything really took off from there. Let's see, within the first few months, my grades were better. I was really enjoying myself, having a lot of fun, and my connections at Pitt helped me eventually land at Eaton. So I went to North Hills High School, went to Pitt, studied electrical engineering, started at Eaton a few weeks after. I went back to school, went back to the University of Pittsburgh to get my master's degree while I was working at Eaton. Because I had enjoyed my time at Pitt so much, I just wanted to go back and do more. I've been with Eaton now for 9 years and really enjoying it.
That's so awesome to hear how everything changed for you once you started studying something you were really passionate about.
And that was such an important thing for me, because when I first entered college, maybe an undeclared major, maybe thinking I would study math, maybe thinking I would study economics, nothing was clicking for me. It just wasn't working. But as soon as I keyed into engineering and keyed into electrical engineering specifically, everything just kind of started to fall into place. I was having fun with what I was learning. I was enjoying the large number of hours of studying that I had to do to get the engineering. It just really meshed with my interests really well, and it was fun. I just had a good time.
So glad you found your path. Now, tell me, what's a day in the life like for Ellen Bachman, inside sales engineer?
Of course. Well, I'd actually like to talk to you about 2 roles that I've had while I've been at Eaton. An engineering career can look a lot of different ways. You might get a degree in electrical engineering, but there are hundreds and even thousands of different jobs and specialties that you could do with a degree in engineering. And I've had 2, even within the same company, that are a little bit different. So I'd like to describe both, just to kind of give a feel for how there's a big range of things you can do with an engineering degree. So when I started at Pitt, right out of school, I was a design engineer at Eaton's office in Warrendale, PA, near Cranberry. And when I was there, what I was doing was designing low voltage control panels and medium voltage assembly. Now, to people outside the industry, outside of the electrical distribution market, that might not mean a whole lot. But I think a lot of our viewers have probably been to Kennywood or Idlewild or an amusement park. And when you go to get on a ride in an amusement park, the ride operator that's sitting next to you has in front of them a panel full of buttons and switches and lights that tells them what the ride is doing and allows them to control it. So think about that panel, but instead of controlling a roller coaster or an amusement park ride of some kind, it's controlling electrical distribution equipment. So I designed control panels that looked kind of like that, but more complex for electrical distribution equipment. and also some medium voltage assemblies, which if you think of, let's see, I don't know, those big gray boxes that you see on the side of the road that you know are electrical equipment, the stuff that's inside there. There are components and wires and all kinds of stuff in there. So I got to do design of some of that kind of stuff. In that role, I would create 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional drawings for these products. You can almost think of them like a Lego instruction set. So when you go to build a Lego set, you get this box full of pieces and you get a packet that shows you step by step how to put it together. I was creating the instruction set and I was determining all the pieces and then creating those documents in a way that other people would then be able to put it together. So it was literally like I was creating Lego instructions, which as a kid that grew up building Legos all the time was a lot of fun. It was pretty cool. So that job was really neat because I got to see the process of product development from start to finish, from beginning a project all the way through seeing it completed out the door and getting to put together some of that fun stuff, some being creative and putting together those Lego instruction sets. So I did that for 7 years and I was ready to do something new. So for the last 2 years, I've been in an inside sales role. So in my inside sales role, I help our salespeople sell Eaton equipment to customers that need it. And the way I do that is I read drawings and specifications that are written by other engineers and then use a computer tool to help me build products that would match the drawings and specifications written by the other engineers to meet the customer's needs. So in this role, I'm not physically building a product, I'm just building it on the computer, but it's like putting together a puzzle. I'm taking the drawings that these other engineers have made and I'm reading them and I'm interpreting them and I'm using the education and experience that I have to help figure out what the best way we as a company can solve that customer's needs through selling a product. So it's totally different than what I did before in design. It's almost like I've seen both sides of the coin. One was on the design side, creating drawings, being creative, determining, how we can do something. But now on the sales side, I'm looking at someone else's vision and trying to determine how we can make that become a reality.
Very cool. I love the idea of talking about being an engineer. There's so many different things that you can do. And I think that's so important to stress to, especially students in high school right now, that the STEM disciplines open so many different types of doors that you're not just boxed in as one type of engineer. There's so many different types of jobs that you can take on. So thank you for sharing yours.
Of course, and that was definitely something that I didn't even understand or recognize when I was studying engineering. So one of the colleagues that I've had at Eaton has a family member with an engineering degree who has had a full career in banking. You wouldn't think that with an engineering degree, you're going to go into banking, but there's just so many options of where you can end up.
Awesome stuff. Now, I know like in many STEM professionals' careers, there are so many different educators and mentors along the way that help you succeed. Are there a few just off the top of your head that really helped you get to where you are today?
Of course. I mean, my biggest inspiration thus far in my life as a whole, inside and outside of my career, has been my mom. From a young age, she's instilled the importance of hard work and doing your best always in me. And she's always been a great example of that. So I've always been pushed to do my best just to make her proud, because I know she's, always just wanted the best for me and helped to support me in so many ways. And when I was in high school or younger in my career, in college, I didn't really have a mentor in the STEM discipline. And that's one of the reasons that it's important to me to be visible, to be out there, to say, hey, young students, both young women and young men, like, hey, this is a great career. Get involved and it can take you amazing places. I didn't really have, early a person that was that driving force in STEM for me. However, thanks to Eaton, I've connected with a number of people within the Eaton organization that have helped to serve as mentors for me. Namely, I have a mentor named Larry. He and I connected about 2 years ago. Larry's an excellent guy. He's been in the industry for, I believe, about over 30 years, might even be closer to 40 at this point. And he and I have a great relationship, and he's helped me learn a lot about the industry, about things that, he didn't know when he was my age and wishes he would have known going forward. And just to give me a picture of what things used to be like versus what they are like now. It's really cool to have that that mentorship and that partnership with people that have maybe not seen the exact same things I'm working on before, but that have seen something similar that can kind of be a guide.
So kind of along that same vein, are you now mentoring anyone as you come into your own as a professional?
I'm trying to, as we get newer folks that come out of school, I try to maybe take them under my wing a little bit, help them learn, help them, get integrated into their jobs and what they're doing, and make it a little bit easier for everybody else. And I also love getting involved in programs with school age kids, all the way from youngsters in elementary school up through high school, to be able to see what engineering can look like. Hey, when you think of an engineer, you might not think of someone that looks like me, but here I am, and this is what I'm doing. And maybe it could be you too.
If you can see her, you can be her, right?
I think so. I think so.
So what advice would you have for a young girl or woman interested in exploring a STEM career or maybe getting into engineering?
So my advice would be twofold. First, dive in, explore, see what you think you might want to do. Check out a bunch of paths, maybe electrical engineering. Hey, that was great for me and I love it, but maybe that's not quite right for you. Explore, ask questions, meet people. You've got the internet at your fingertips. Look up anything and everything. And if you think you know something or find something that you might like, start reaching out to people and talk to them about it. Start seeing if you can find someone that you could do a job shadow of, or just keep scouring the internet to learn more about whatever it is you might like. So just explore, find it, because it's out there. And the second piece of advice I would give would be to keep climbing. There are, even now, so I went to college about 10 years ago, and it was probably about 10% women in my electrical engineering classes once I got into my discipline. And that's not a ton. You're outnumbered 9-1. And over time, that percentage is growing and is going to continue to grow. Hopefully already by now it's more. But there are going to be times where you're the only woman in the room. So make sure you're comfortable in that space. Learn to both blend into the group and make space for yourself at the same time. Just because you might be the only woman in the group, that doesn't mean you're going to be out. You're going to be overruled, or you're going to be not taken seriously. Make space for yourself in that group and learn to be comfortable in that space, because you will be in it, but that's all right. Over time, there'll be more of us, and it won't be 10-1 or 9-1. Eventually, we'll get closer and closer to having more women represented in STEM careers.
That's excellent advice. Thank you. So I want to switch gears a little bit and just talk about some fun stuff about you outside of work.
Of course.
And folks watching, I'm sure you can see Ellen here has an amazing display of national parks posters. And here at the Science Center, we're actually showing National Parks Adventure at the Rango's Giant Cinema right now. So I wanted to ask you, Ellen, what are your favorite parks that you visited? And what are some parks that are still on your bucket list?
Okay, so my favorite park that I visited is Dry Tortugas. It's one a lot of people haven't heard about. It's 70 miles west of Key West, Florida. So you can only get to it by either taking a seaplane or taking a 2-hour boat ride. I went there about 2 years ago, maybe 3 at this point, and camped overnight for 2 nights. And it was an awesome experience, because at night when you're camping, the only people on that little island are you, the other campers, and a few of the national park rangers. You're out there in the middle of nowhere. It's just you, and there's a beautiful fort there. And since it's a little island, you can see sunrise and sunset. It was just awesome. I absolutely loved it. and I can't wait to go back someday. So that was definitely my favorite national park that I've been to. And one that's on my bucket list, I actually went to Grand Canyon, Zion and Bryce Canyon a few years ago as well, but I was sick the whole time I was there. So instead of hiking 6 miles a day, we were only able to do a couple here and there. So even though I've been there, those ones are still on my bucket list too. Those are some of the major, most beautiful parks that everyone's familiar with. And when you're sick, you don't really get to enjoy anything. So I want a do-over for those ones. Those ones are definitely still on my bucket list.
Awesome. My best friend just visited the Arches and sent me a card from there. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so gorgeous. Like, it's almost hard to believe that a place like that even exists. So I'm dying to get there myself now.
That's my favorite thing of a lot of them, whether it's Dry Tortugas and you're out in the middle of nowhere, or you're at the top of the Grand Canyon staring down into the bottom and looking out over how vast it is. Like, I know, you know that you're there and you know what you're seeing, but you almost can't even comprehend that it's real, that like this is a part of the world that we get to experience and enjoy.
Definitely. Yeah. That's what I love about the movie we're showing right now, because I know a lot of people aren't really able to travel considering everything on right now. So it's an easy way to get sort of an overview of the best America has to offer park-wise.
That's perfect, especially now if you can't get there yourself. Second best would be to go see that.
Yes. So I have some questions from the audience.
Of course.
Wrap up here. Could you talk about a specific challenge that being a woman in engineering that you faced as a woman in the field and overcame? Do you have any experiences?
Of course. I would say, I don't know that this is necessarily a specific challenge, but I can think of an experience where I was touring a manufacturing, I guess this is a pretty specific example. I was touring a manufacturing facility with myself and 2 other engineers, both of which were men. And the gentleman that was giving us the tour at one point kind of pulled me aside and made a strange comment to me. He said, basically, how much of this do you really understand? And it took me back because I thought, why is he asking this to me? Like, why would he say that to me and not my coworkers? Now, of course, I was younger than the other people that I was with, and I was the only woman in the group. So, you know, who knows what his motivation was, but I was discouraged by that for quite a long time. And I thought, what am I doing here? Why am I trying to do this if people are going to look at me and say, why are you here? What are you doing? You don't belong here. But after reflecting on that experience for a while and discussing it with some of my friends, both within engineering and outside of engineering, it's really become a motivational factor for me. It's part of the reason why I like to get involved in programs like this, because yeah, maybe one person thinks I don't belong in the group. That's okay. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to make sure there's a space for me. And I'm going to help make sure there's a space for someone else who wants to join me here. So that's maybe one specific example where it's been difficult, but I'm glad I've been able to kind of use that as a motivating factor for me.
That's a great segue into another question I had for you. How important is representation in science and the STEM fields?
Representation is so important. You said it earlier in our discussion here. If you can see her, you can be her. And that's absolutely true. Because if you don't have an example of what you're working towards, you always have in the back of your mind, well, can I really do this? Is it really possible? And so when you have that example of what you can be, or the representation of someone that might look like you or sound like you, it makes it much easier to visualize yourself in that situation and to set a goal that might lead you there or somewhere similar that might be better for you. And the other thing that about representation that I think is important is, you know, yeah, when you're young, it's great to have that example. But now as an adult in my career, representation of all different types of people leads to a diverse, fun, interesting team that I'm working with. So in addition to being motivating when I'm young, it's also valuable and, you know, just a great feature of a team to be a part of.
I think the best ideas come from teams that are diverse, equitable, and It's great to hear your thoughts on that topic.
Of course.
What types of skills did you develop while studying engineering that have been the most helpful to you in your career?
The most helpful skill from studying engineering didn't come from doing all the math problems or writing all the papers. It came from trying to solve the problems that I didn't know how to solve, that didn't have an easy solution. The thing that I took away most from my studies that I use every day is learning what to do when you don't know what to do. Is, when you're learning a new topic, you might be presented with a set of practice problems to do, and you say, hey, I listened to that lecture and I looked through the book and this still doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what to do. And when you're studying, you might Google it, you might consult the internet, you might reach out to a friend, you might get a tutor. You find what resources you have and you use them in order to solve the problem. That's what engineers do on a regular basis. I'm not solving difficult math problems so much anymore, but someone's calling me and they're saying, hey, can our product do this? Would we be able to do that? And I don't know. And so I might have to reach out to the engineers on the product line team, or I might have to start with a Google search and see, hey, is this even possible? So learning how to solve problems that don't have a simple solution has definitely been the most valuable thing I took away from my time studying engineering. If the solution isn't apparent, don't give up. Keep digging, use your resources until you find something, and you might not find the solution right away. You might find one clue that'll send you to the next clue. And before you know it, you're down the line working towards an answer to whatever the question is.
Excellent point. Thank you, Ellen. What do you like most about your job?
What I like most about my job is that it allows me to help people. Now, selling electrical distribution equipment might not be a job that helps people in maybe what you'd think of as the traditional sense. You think of a doctor or a nurse or, a firefighter or something like that. But at its essence, I'm helping people every day. I'm helping my salespeople sell our products and meet their goals. I'm helping our customers solve their problems and meet their goals. Whatever someone, all these people that I interact with on a workplace basis, they all have goals and I'm helping them to solve theirs. And when you think about it, electrical distribution and power equipment is what keeps the lights on for everyone. It keeps the lights on in your home. It keeps plants running, producing goods that we need. It keeps hospital facilities running. So in a small way, very small way, I'm helping to keep the world running as it is, which I think that's a pretty good thing to help.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you participate in any internships or co-ops that impacted your decision to go into your field?
You know what? I didn't participate in any internships or co-ops that were directly related to power engineering, but this is another great example of how electrical engineering, even specifically in that discipline, has a number of different directions that you can take a career. After that would have been after my sophomore year of college, I did an internship with the Human Engineering Research Lab, which is a Department of Veterans Affairs funded facility that works here in Pittsburgh in conjunction with the University of Pittsburgh to develop assistive technologies for people with disabilities. So I spent that summer working on the code for a drive system for an electric power wheelchair. That's totally different than power distribution equipment. Wow. So that was a really cool undergraduate research experience.
Yeah.
And I did another undergraduate research experience following my junior year, which was at Washington State University. I decided I wanted to get out of Pittsburgh and see what the rest of the world was like to make sure that once I finished school, I did want to, settle here for good. So I studied at Washington State University for a summer, and I was working on electronic circuitry for small circuit boards, like small, tiny circuit boards, totally different than both power wheelchair programming and from power distribution equipment. It's all got that same theme of being electrical based, but totally different. So you can end up so many different places with a degree in engineering or a degree in electrical engineering. And I found those experiences to be really informative and a lot of fun to get out there and meet people and learn what they're doing. And when else in your life can you do something for 10 or 12 weeks, immerse yourself in it, and then go back to school and study some more? So I would highly recommend to anybody to pursue an internship or a co-op, or in my experience, what I did was research experience for undergraduates, which was a National Science Foundation funded program. I recommend those as well. While I didn't get the industry experience that maybe an internship or co-op would have led to, it definitely got me exposed to a lot of different, the different technical aspects of electrical engineering that you could go into.
Very cool. Those are all the questions we have for now. Do you have any other final words of wisdom that you want to share before we sign off?
I think we just about covered everything that I wanted to talk about. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me to talk a little bit about engineering. I look forward to being involved with the Science Center further. Once we can get back in person, I've participated in Tour Your Future program with STEM students at Eaton in the past. I look forward to getting to do that in future years. And thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you, Ellen. I certainly feel inspired, and I'm sure that a lot of people that tuned in today feel inspired by your story as well. So thanks again for joining us today.
Of course, thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just saying thank you again. Go right ahead.
Sorry, just sharing the love. Well, we hope everyone watching with us will join us next week whenever we chat with Kay Savage. I'm super excited for this one. Kay is a senior data scientist at Spotify. So
that's pretty cool.
It's going to be a fun one. Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, Eaton's cool too. Don't get me wrong, but Spotify.
Yeah, but Spotify gives you background music for your whole day. That's important.
Yeah. So we'll talk with Kay next Wednesday, August 26th at 11 a.m. right here on Facebook Live on Carnegie Science Center's page. More details and our full list of speakers for this series can be found at carnegiesciencecenter.org. And thanks guys for watching. Have a great day.